a lot came to the light. So as much as every girl was struggling with something very individual to them, we were pulling out themes across the board. Self-confidence, self-esteem, self-awareness, screens to support their connection. And when you take those away, they don't know how to connect.
Yeah, sometimes the Wi-Fi is not on and you can't connect, right? Like there's so many little, I think, nuances. I think as business owners, you just keep motoring. Sometimes you don't get to stop and look back at what you've created.
Looking for real stories of real people making a difference in the Grand Canyon State? Welcome to Finding Arizona podcast. We sit down with Arizona's inspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and community leaders and give you a front row seat to their journeys, passions, and projects. Whether you're a local trying to find a hidden gem or just enjoy watching someone chase their dreams, Finding Arizona is your go-to place for authentic conversations with a desert twist. New episodes drop weekly, so hit subscribe and start exploring Arizona one story at a time. The Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. And as always, we bring in special guests every week. Today is no different. We have two incredible guests with us. And honestly, this might be one of the most important conversations we have on this show, because today we're talking about girls. Specifically, we are talking about what happens when you give tweens and teen girls the tools they actually need to navigate this world. Not just expectations, but real tools, confidence, boundaries, how to use your voice. Jill Peterson and Mary Francis are the co-founders of Girl Mentorship, a Scottsdale-based youth leadership and confidence building organization that is on a serious mission. They want to reach 1 million girls. After just hearing their story, I genuinely believe they are going to do it. Here's what makes the duo special. Jill is a serial optimist, her words, with nearly a decade of leadership and coaching experience, a certificate in mindfulness leadership from ASU, and a 200-hour yoga certification. She has a gift for building trust fast and creating spaces where girls feel safe enough to stretch and speak and step forward. Her belief: uncommon results begin with an uncommon mindset. Mary Francis is a equal parts coach, motivator, and she calls an adult cheerleader, a CrossFit L2 certified coach, a former gym owner. She's spent years mentoring hundreds of kids, teens, and adults, teaching not only physical strength, but mental toughness, habit formation, and personal responsibility. She leads with what she calls HOT energy, humble, open, and transparent. She uses her own story, including navigating family trauma, instability, to show girls setbacks don't define you, growth does. Together, they have started Girls Mentorship as a 2-day summer camp in 2021. 5 years later, it has grown into a full confidence building ecosystem. Summer camps, after school programs, peer leadership pathways, and this fall, an elective course at Rancho Solano Preparatory School. And just this month, they've earned their official 501c3 nonprofit status, unlocking the next chapter of their mission and removing the barriers that are keeping even more girls from getting in the room. This is a story about two women who've looked back at their own girlhoods and decided that the next generation deserves better, and they will build it themselves. Jill and Mary, thank you for joining us here at Finding Arizona podcast.
Damn! Take a breath. And I know that we write our own bios, but
good.
to hear it read back with such passion and fervor every time just gives us insight into what we've actually built. Because I think as business owners, you just keep motoring. Sometimes you don't get to stop and look back at what you've created. So to hear that read out loud like that, thank you so much for that wonderful
No problem.
introduction.
And I want the moment and the experience of this conversation to kind of be a reflection of that triumph story for you guys. I have always been intentional about when we do these podcasts, I really do want the confidence to be built on this relationship of like you giving me your story, I give you a little bit of my own and my own beliefs. And there is this kind of level of like appreciation because I really genuinely walk into these as like, I want to learn more. I want to be a cheerleader too. So I do this in the sense of like, I really hope that you guys will understand that I appreciate, again, the level of confidence and the level of experience that you guys have built throughout the year. So that'll lead us into our very first question that I usually ask everyone is to give us your origin moment. But for you guys specifically, you were handed expectations and not tools. Take us back to that recognition period. What was that specific moment or that specific feeling that made you look at each other and say, we need to build something for girls that we didn't have?
Gosh, a moment or several moments. Obviously, I think everyone can speak to that or relate to that. For me, it was when I owned my first business. So my first business was a CrossFit gym. That's where the level 2 and the training and the teaching goes with adults and kids.
Yeah.
My business partner at the time, in order to move forward as a partnership, required that I attend a personal growth and development seminar. And that rubbed me the wrong way for whatever reason. Make judgments on that, whatever that means. That version of myself didn't like being held to that standard or being made to do that. And I think the narrative in my head was, I don't need this. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that as well. I can remember back in the early 2000s when Barnes & Noble had a self-help section, and it felt very small. And you went there if your life was terrible and you needed to read a book about it and figure it out. And that's kind of where I was coming from in terms of not needing that help. However, in order to appease and move forward in the business, I attended the seminar, the personal growth and development seminar. It was through a company called PSI, which if you're familiar with Landmark is on the same wavelength as Landmark. And it changed my life. That the first hour of being in the room was something magical happened. My mindset completely flipped. And it was like, wow, I don't know what I don't know. And is it possible that my life to this point has been really difficult? Because yes, maybe circumstantially, I wasn't handed the best cards. My parents did things that they shouldn't have done or didn't do things that they should have done. But in my big age now, I'm responsible for the path forward. And it changed for me in that moment. So that was in 2016, consequently the same year that I wound up meeting Jill Peterson. So I'm a big, big believer in just things happening in succession. Like once you open up your mindset or take off your blinders, that more stuff that's meant for you can come your way. It's almost like the hose being clogged. If you can unkink the hose by making one decision that leads to the next decision, 10 years later, that one decision to get out of my own way has led to so much fruitfulness that that's where I decided that I didn't want another girl, another female, another person to not have the tools that I didn't have because it took me way too long to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll jump in and share. I'll jump in and share my side of the story. So yes, like Mary said, her and I met in 2016, and where we met was at Lululemon. So Lululemon for us really is it's the birth story of how we met in our relationship. But when I worked there, I also got fire hosed with personal growth and development, which that was new for me. I had an incredible childhood. I was raised by wonderful parents, grandparents. I would say looking back, what was I a confident girl? And I would say yes. But also where I got stuck in my adulthood and growing into my leadership when I was kind of climbing the corporate ladder at Lululemon was the fear of people pleasing. I was a huge people pleaser. I had no idea how to be direct and candid. I had no idea how to say no. I wanted people to like me, so I would stretch myself thin and bend over backwards for people. Then I was left feeling nothing. So Lululemon, much like Mary's journey, put me through Landmark, and that was my first personal growth and development experience. And much like Mary, where it transformed her life,
it did the same thing for me as well. So it
That's
was
great.
in that moment that I was like, whoa, what would I have done if I had the knowing, the knowledge, the skills, the conversations, the vocabulary at a younger
Yeah.
age to develop these skills that I'm severely lacking or lagging in. So as our friendship and relationship grew, and when we started Girls Mentorship in 2020, what we knew for certain was it was going to be around personal growth and development, because we knew that those things, personal growth and development, completely changed our lives. And we knew if we were to go back to our younger selves and say, hey, if you practice these things, your life will look differently than ours did. Now,
Yes.
it's not going to eliminate the pain or the heartache or the challenges, but the way that it keeps you down isn't going to keep you down for as long as it potentially did with us.
Yes. I think that's incredible. Like from the standpoint as a parent myself right now, I have this multitude of things coming at me from what he's watching, what he's learning, what he is putting in his body, what he is putting out into the world. And so those types of things are always on my mind. And as kind of this, I would say, modern day, father, I try also not to. This one thing that comes into my mind is something that I heard was like, be they're good. You're as a parent, you're their universe, and you're going to be their self-conscious. No matter how hard you try not to be, the voice that they hear is either mom or dad telling them, the positive, the negative things to them.
Uh-huh.
And so I want to be the dad that, gives him the positive encouragement. I know I'm not perfect. I know that I need self-discipline, growth in certain areas, but I will always put him in that realm of like encouragement. And when he wants to go down that, little pathway of like searching and discovering, I will hold his hand as much as I can. But there will come a point where it's like the bumpers come off, and that's what I'm afraid of. Like the real world will have to come in at one point, and I hope at the time that does happen that he is ready. Like the girls that come out of your mentorship, is that he is mentally strong enough, and also just physically too. But there's some level of like the dynamics come together. I just hope that he is prepared to take on the challenges, know that they are coming in life and they will be there always, but that you are strong enough, you are hopefully, in all sense of the word, strong enough to take those things and, succeed and grow past and grow forward and move forward in life without having that kind of trauma that goes along with those things. So I do really, I think what you guys are doing is important, and I really do respect it. So I will go into this part of it. The Girls Mentorship launched as a 2-day summer program in 2021. Those are humble beginnings that are clearly becoming a movement.
Uh-huh.
What did you see in those first 2 days in the girls in that room that told you that this was much bigger than a camp?
Well, and luckily, we had about a year prior to that. When we launched summer camp, we had about, I want to say, a year of doing this under our belt. So it was more,
Okay.
we launched our official business in 2020, and parents at that point in time, we joke because certain businesses obviously took a nosedive in 2020 and certain businesses skyrocketed. So if you think about like DoorDash or Uber Eats, like those businesses, some of those businesses were on the brink of bankruptcy, and they skyrocketed because there was a very clear need at that point.
Yeah.
Our business became a very clear need because parents were now at home with their children and they were seeing the cracks in their foundation like they hadn't before, because we were busy. We were at school. We were working. They were at sports. We didn't get as much time to see their skills, the skills that they had that weren't developed, that were lacking, that were lagging. And so we put our business out into the world and people gravitated towards it right away, which was shocking to us because we weren't sure. And we got to work with a lot of girls on a one-to-one level in terms of helping them deal with what they were going through during the pandemic, because a lot came to the light. So as much as every girl was struggling with something very individual to them, we were pulling out themes across the board. Self-confidence, self-esteem, self-awareness, friendships were all things that were popping up in these individual conversations.
Yes.
So when we first decided to test the waters at summer camp, we were very naive and we saw other summer camps and we were like, this could be a really great place to make money. Yes, impact, but in order to keep the business going, you have to have funds coming in. So we were trying our hand at different programs, different styles of working with girls. And we saw summer camps and we were like, okay,
we could do that.
We don't get to work with girls a ton during the school year. There's very short windows to work with them. Obviously, the pandemic created more space for us to work with them. But as soon as girls started going back to school, that's an 8 to 3. So then you've got a 4 to 8 window to work with them Monday through Friday or Saturday and Sunday. So we already kind of painted ourselves in a corner there. So we were like, what other time of year do we get to work with them? Boom, summer, got it. That stretched us beyond our wildest imagination. But it's also what propelled us to be where we are now. So making the decision to throw a summer camp was the biggest decision I think we've ever made in our business. It was highly inconvenient. We threw it, like you said, 2 days, but it was 2 half days. So it was Wednesday, Thursday, and it was 9 to 1. 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock on Wednesday and Thursday. So if a parent bought a ticket, they were buying a ticket for those 2 days. Okay. And honestly, we sold 147 tickets. So we threw it over the course of June and 1 week in July. And we sold 147 tickets, which obviously a light bulb went off there that this was needed and necessary. And the feedback we got was the same. This was incredible. We loved it. They loved it. Thank you so much. And super inconvenient. Could you possibly reconfigure how you offer?
Could you do a 9 to 3?
Exactly. I hope it was exactly in those kind of great, loved it, super inconvenient, just straight to the point.
We were like, give us feedback. We're open to it. We're learning.
Loved it. They loved it. And what the hell is this 9 to 1 thing?
We were like, we get it. Doing to us?
We get it. Yeah. We were simply trying our hand to see if this was a viable program, and it was. So the next year we moved it to a full week. It was 9 to 3. It mirrored the school day, and we continued to see the fact that this was not only something that parents were looking for, but it was a desperate need. Because yes, technology has crept in. Technology has crept in hugely. Social media, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, all of them have crept in. But the foundation, self-confidence, self-awareness, those friendships that I mentioned a few minutes ago, I struggled with those when I was a teenager. I'm 38 and I still struggle with those things. Now, I have the tools to help me in a situation where my confidence is low, where maybe it shouldn't be from the outside looking in. It's like, you should be fine. You've done this 1,000 times. But the fact remains that when I was in middle school, we like to say it really starts around 10. Now, obviously, you have your outliers. It could start earlier, it could start later, but you see it as girls start to go into middle school. The friendship issues, the exclusion, the body image issues, the self-talk, that was the same age that it started for us. So it was really a harsh realization that nothing has really changed, and we've only added layers onto this multidimensional cake.
Yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of things that, in full confidence and transparency, Mary and I have been friends for almost 10 years,
Probably
years,
10 plus years.
Yeah. We've gone back a ways. And so when we've had these periodic conversations with each other, it's we've caught up and really, I've talked to you about this and just the idea, overcoming COVID. And just what COVID did to a lot of people was for me in particular, as a podcaster collecting stories, I was looking for the silver lining. What a lot came to me was this level of looking inward. For the business owners, it was what do I bring to the community and how do I stay surviving this as a business? For other, avenues, and it's at the home, we look inward. How do I, for parents, I can imagine, my wife was pregnant at the time, but it's I could imagine as a father during that period of man, I gotta I got to help, we got to, and it's like, you're looking at your family and you're realizing, there are some cracks, like, holy moly, like and then also when you lose a level of that layer, like school and like, the dimensions of like friendships, moving through the society in an environment of like everyday life, you take away that layer that now they are lacking in this discipline that is like, talking to someone eye to eye, having a basic phone call conversation, these levels of confidence that you would build in those daily routines goes away. And so this, individual, this human being that's still developing now lacks something. So it's like, I've noticed, from that time, people looked inward. It was a lot of asking why, who, what can I do to, stay surviving and allow me to move forward into this next world, into this next step. So I go on to say that I can imagine as a parent coming and realization of like, oh my goodness, I need to help my child and to go to you guys. And I can imagine at that time too, it's like, I have other professional, like I went to school for, was landscape architecture. What I noticed too from that kind of genre of business is that people were like they've had this money saved up that now they're going to use it to help rebuild some of their home. And landscape is typically the last thing on someone's list. Now it's the first thing. I got time. Let's work on it. So it's like that inward looking, like, how do I beautify my space, my home, my people, my, community? So it's to say that it's like you guys hit it right on the head when you were helping these people develop this extra thing or extra layer or extra confidence. It's definitely, I could see you guys working and feeling confident that what you have here is something that people need, the girls need, the parents need, the families need. And so I could definitely appreciate that level of like, we've had this conversation, Mary. It's like, I knew from the very get-go when you told me about this, like, oh, this is right up your alley. I was giving you comment. I was like, go for it. This is great. I love it. And so I go on to now this part of like this realization of like the girls every day from the inside of that work that you've been doing. What is the thing that the girls today are most starved for, and why isn't the current system giving it to them?
I would say connection is what they're craving. And they're getting connection, but they're doing it through screens. And they're not putting themselves out there the way that we did when we were younger.
Yes.
So when we were in that teen phase of and development of our lives, we were going to each other's houses and we were going to parties. And remember your first boy-girl party? And it was like, like, oh my, they don't do that. They do not do that. Or going to the movies for the first time, or not allowing your parents to be by you. And so you can like go be with your friends. Like there's just not, kids don't do that anymore. There's not spaces. It really has, there's spaces for kiddos who are in that elementary age. And then when you get that like 5th grade to middle school and then really to high school, it's like there's really nothing for them. And yes, can they go to the mall? Sure. But
even malls have been taken away.
Yeah, where are the
online
spaces?
Shopping? Right.
Online spaces.
Those in-between spaces that tween. I think that's a perfect word.
Exactly.
The third space, the in-between space.
The third space. So they're craving those type of connections. And when we put them together in a room and it's for them and they really see the intention behind why we're together, when they finally let their walls drop and they relax into the space and they know that they're safe and they know that they can trust us, they don't want to leave because they're so used to connecting with people on their devices, on their iPads, or they're meeting friends in completely different worlds that they don't might not ever see. You know, if they're online, if they're playing Roblox and they're talking to somebody else, it's like,
I was just
we
about
don't
to go
even
down that
know.
route.
Yeah.
I was like, for
They
boys,
don't
it's the
even
online
know.
gaming situation.
Exactly. And girls are equally online as well. And so it's like, yes, you might feel like you're developing a friendship, but are you? So they're craving the same things we craved. We just, as a society, have built screens to support their connection. And when you take those away, they don't know how to connect.
Yeah, sometimes the Wi-Fi is not on and you can't connect, right? Like there's so many little, I think, nuances in connecting in person, 3D versus 2D. It's facial expressions. You said something earlier about looking somebody in the eye. It's body language. Yes, you can hear my tone of voice right now, but an inflection in somebody's tone of voice in person. There's so many things that kids got robbed of during COVID in a really integral time of development that they need to work extra hard now in order to pick up. And if they're not working towards it because they don't know how to work towards it, those skills will be lacking for their entire life.
Yeah.
And for
you could go
parents-
down the route of like, just really quickly, it's like cursive. Like as we've lost that kind of, we've moved towards keyboards and we've lost that human nature of like cursive isn't really predominantly taught a lot of the times. And too, it's a lack in writing too, as well. It's like our letters to each other are very sterile in how we write. And so I've noticed that too. I've, that level of like transition of my early childhood of like, not having computers to having computers, like those types of things I've remember, and life is just different because of what technology has brought to us.
100%. And I was just going to say that parents, teachers, sometimes we expect our kids to just know. And we have to remember, we have to ask ourselves the question, who's taught them? So if we go back to, I have two boys and they are entering 5th grade and 7th grade. And I'll never forget my older son who was typing, like pecking at his keyboard. And I'm like, okay, you're typing, you have to type a 3-page story. And have you ever done a typing class? Because I'm watching you is painful. It's painful to watch you do. And he's like, no. And I'm like, but how do your teachers expect you to write this paper if they've never taught you to type? And granted, I'm not trying to put all of the blame on teachers, but that was a moment for me as a parent to be like, whoa, what else am I not teaching him?
Exactly.
Because we just kind of expect them to do these things. And similarly to our children, as they continue to progress in middle school, in high school, and then they fly the nest, and we expect them to go just know how to people and know how to communicate and know how to do these things that we feel like society should have taught them or they should have learned in school. We hear more often than not that kids, and I would say young adults between like the ages of like 19, 20, 21, they are completely lost. They are lost because no one's taught them the skills, the social, emotional skills to be successful. So this is where Mary and I are, it is like an emergency in our head. It's like we are tired of TikTok, Instagram, the older generations saying that these kids aren't equipped because we haven't taught them. We want to do something about it, as opposed to us blaming and pointing the finger.
I was just going to say that.
It's on us as a society to say like, well, what are we doing about it? And we're taking that seriously. And yes, we would love to serve all of the kids, boys and girls, but our genius, because we've been young girls, we've gone through, we've done it all. Our focus is girls.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, I go on to say, you like Mary has put on, you don't know what you don't know. So to, really influence another gender, like it's like you guys can, I know that you have positive intentions, but there's a level of like, a male to male perspective that I think works best. And that is something that is influenced. And I agree full-heartedly the opposite direction too. I think you can make a difference in a child's life that's not your own, also not your gender too. There's equal opportunity, but I think what works best in these moments of like growth and development is, and also bringing down the fear and walls of like, I'm talking to an older adult person, but I'd rather talk to an older adult person who shares the same perspective of like, I'm a male. How do I go on and what does male perspective look in this moment? And so that in itself also goes into, I have so much appreciation for mentorship and so much appreciation for these small groups, because I think that there's so much developed in those, again, third spaces, those small groups, those little moments of like who you are outside of your parents' domain. And that is something that we all try our best to give our child, and know that they have that in them to be the person that they are meant to be out in the world, but to give them a lasso of chance to like go explore that, go, in a safe space where it's like the teachers and the mentors there are going to do their best to, put a positive spin, influence on my child. Yes, 1,000% yes. I've met other native groups. There's a man, Thosh. He's a Tohono O'odham, mentor, leader, and he puts male camping, like fireside chats development group. And it's so like, even myself, like he has told me you should do it for your own tribe. And I've like thought about it so like deeply. I was like, and seeing him do it, it's just really influenced me. But I will now ask you two individual questions, because I want to get you both of your perspectives on two different insights. Jill, for you, this is about mindset. Your philosophy, like what I've perceived with Brene Brown, you've philosophized that feelings aren't obstacles, they're information. That's powerful to reframe, especially for girls who are often told to push their feelings down and aside. How do you teach girls to actually use their emotional awareness as a strength?
We like to say that they're like a scientist. Your feelings, it's like an experiment. Your whole life is an experiment. But if you can, especially for kids, you need to give them some type of visual or analogy where they can really, like the light bulb goes on and it clicks for them. So if you are in a lab, a science lab, and you're doing some type of experiment, that literally is what life is. So when you're having a moment, or if you're having let's say you got into a fight with your mom and you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling mad, it's like, okay, all of those things for you is information for you around, okay, what do I need? Because then we forget that we have needs sometimes because our feelings feel so big. That it's like, okay, what do you need right now? Do you need to take a second to go in your room and take a big deep breath? Do you need to tell your mom that what she said was not like it wasn't cool? And before you react in a negative way, I got to go take like 5 minutes and then we can reconvene, right?
Yes.
Every kid is different. And sometimes if someone doesn't teach you how to communicate effectively by using your feelings as information, you will either suppress, like you said, Jose, where it's like, just, pretend like that nothing happened and we're going to put a smile on our face and we're going to move on.
Down.
Exactly. Yeah. And then 3 months later, something happens and you explode like a volcano, and then it's detrimental at that point. So we need to teach kiddos that feelings are information, but it's also telling you something about what you need. There's a need system there. So it's just a cool way for you to constantly be in an experiment with yourself. You are a scientist of your whole life. So sometimes you got to go through the experiment a few times to really figure out if it worked in your favor, if your thesis or hypothesis was correct. But I think that has been the biggest piece that Mary and I share with our girls is like, it is okay to have feelings, and you are not wrong to have feelings, but
to explore them
and to explore them and do it in a healthy, constructive way.
Yes. And that's, I'll be honest, that's what my wife has taught me and has also instilled in our son. And I've seen it, like, because I don't always get to play with him. And so she gets her playtime with him. And so one of the things, when I'm not around, I will go, when it's just them two, and I'll just go into another room, but I'll listen. Like, I can hear